Complex trinomials are still any old trinomial in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, but complex means that the value of a is not 1. Positive or negative, it is a different number. So we have 2, we have 6, we have positive numbers, we can have negative numbers. Notice that for our two examples, there are no common factors, which means we cannot take out any numbers. We cannot take out 2, because this is not an even number. We don't have any multiples. These are not multiples of any common number. We can divide by 2, we can divide by 2, but we can't. So, because of that, we're going to use a method called decomposition. Decomposition, think about, means to break down. So now what we're going to do is we need to actually find, we're using our magic numbers, two numbers that multiply to 6 times 2, which is 12. So we need two numbers that multiply to 12, but still add to 7. When we go through those numbers, it's going to be positive 3 and positive 4. Before, when we had simple trinomials, those magic numbers would go right in the brackets. Now what we're doing is we're actually breaking down that middle 7x is going to become 3x and 4x, and it's plus 4x because that's positive. Now we've made a trinomial into a polynomial of 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that we've done that, we are going to find a common factor for those two, the first two terms, and a common factor for the second two terms. So for the first two terms, I'm going to look and I'm going to say, oh, my common factor is 3, and they each have at least 1x. What remains, 6x squared divided by 3x, is 2x. 3x divided by 3x is 1. For my second pair, I'm going to find a common factor between 4x and 2. That common factor is a positive 2. So that positive 2 goes in front, and what I have remaining is 4x divided by 2, which is 2x, 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Now that I've done that, I can see that what is in the brackets, what I've pulled out from each pair, leaves the brackets being the same. Because they're the same, they kind of get joined together as they are and go in front, and what remains in the second bracket is 3x and that plus 2, the items that were in front. Essentially what we're doing now is saying that that's a term and that's a term, and we're going to common factor out 2x plus 1, which now goes in front. What's left over is 3x and 2. So we're going to do that again. A few more times. (5x squared plus 8x plus 3). Our first step, we look for a common factor. 5, odd number, 8, even number, no common factor. Add in 3, no luck. So we need to find two numbers that add to 8 and they're going to multiply to 5 times 3, which is 15. So we need those two numbers to multiply to 15. When I look at numbers that multiply to 15 and add to 8, we're going to have positive 3 and positive 5. Now I'm looking specifically at the numbers, but that 8x is going to break down into 3x and 5x. I can determine which one goes first. I might decide that, ooh, because this is 5x squared, I want the 5 to go first. So the 5x squared is still there, 5, and I need to remember that it's x. So that 8x is now broken down, it decomposes into 5x and 3x. Notice that this is the same thing because I haven't changed the equation. Plus 5 plus 3, 5 plus 3 is just 8, it's still 8x's. I've just separated them to make it easier to find a common factor for each group. So again, I look at the first group, I can common factor out 5x. What's left over? 5x squared divided by 5x is x. 5x divided by 5x is 1. In my second group, 3x plus 3, I look at what I can find as a common factor. They're both multiples of 3, and that's a positive 3 that I'm taking out. So positive 3. 3x divided by 3 is x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now that those are the same, I'm pulling out x plus 1 from each term, which leaves me with 5x plus 3. And now I have turned my trinomial, I factored it fully, into a binomial times a binomial. If I do one more, not color coordinated for your benefit, two numbers that add to 5, multiply 2 times 3 is 6, multiply to 6, add to 5, it's 2 and 3. So 5x breaks down into 2x and 3x. X divided by 3 is x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. X plus 1, x plus 1. Those are the same. That's what I'm looking for. So it becomes x plus 1 times 2x plus 3, all in brackets. There's a few more examples for you to do. I'd like to do one or two with you so you can see. If we have a positive and negative, we still go about it the same way. We need two numbers that multiply to 3 times negative 2, which is negative 6. They're going to add to positive 5. Notice this is very similar to the last question, but now we have negatives and positives. So multiply to negative 6 and add to 5. 6 and 1, and it's going to be positive 6 and negative 1. So that 5x is going to break down into negative 1x and positive 6x's. Again, it doesn't matter which one I put first. I'm going to leave the negative 1x, so I remember that there's an actual 1, a number. If I look for common factor of the first two terms, all I have is x. 3x squared divided by x. Negative 1x divided by x is just negative 1. If I look here, 6x minus 2, that leading term is positive, plus 6. So I'm going to take out a positive 2. 6x divided by 2 is 3x. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Look at that. 3x minus 1, 3x minus 1. I group them together, and my second bracket is x plus 2. I do one more example where I have a negative and a negative for you to see. Everything still applies the exact same. Two numbers that add to negative 9 and multiply to 2 times negative 5 multiply to negative 10. When I look at that sort of thing, multiply something bigger, I'm going to have 10 times 1, and this will be negative 10 and positive 1. This time I'm going to put negative 10 second so we can see. I'm going to do it in that order. But I have 2x squared. That negative 9x breaks down into positive 1x, take away 10x, minus 5. Look at my first two terms. If there's nothing I can take out, I just take out 1. Right now, 2x squared plus 1x, I can find a common factor of x. For my second two, because the leading x term has a negative, I'm going to take out a negative number. I look at 10 and 5, common factor is 5, so I take out negative 5. Negative 10x divided by negative 5 is positive 2x. That's good. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is positive 1. Awesome. Once again, did the exact same in the brackets, so I can now group them. My second bracket, x minus 5. And now you can factor by decomposition.